right, welcome back to the FWO Show. I am your host, Jeff the Lion. Week 5 is in the books. We are now heading into Week 6. As it stands right now, it is Sunday of Week 6. So we've already had our Thursday night game, which was just a shit fest with the Bears and the, what are they called? The Washington Commanders. Still haven't wrapped my head around it yet with the Commanders and the Guardians. Whatever. That's a topic for another day. So, topic of the week. We'll get right to it. TRADEMAGEDDON. We had just in this past week, since Wednesday of this past week, so that's what, 5 days or so? In the last 5 days, we had a record 5 trades involving a total of, how many? What would be your guess right now? How many players were involved in those 5 trades? I'm going to give you a couple seconds here. 30 players involved in those 5 trades. 30 players traded this week. A record. I don't even have to look in the record books. I don't have to do any long, strenuous research to find out if that was a record. I know it was a record. It's common sense. Myself, personally, I mean, if you thought that I wasn't going to get involved in the trade game when I'm seeing these trades go through, well, I'm back. I traded 8 total players this week from 2 different teams, or 2 different trades, rather. Whopping trades. Again, 30 total players this week, 8 from my team. From my roster personally, this is a common theme every single year. This is nothing new. From the players that I drafted, I've only got New England's defense and Bobby Wagner left on my team. I like it. I personally feel like it's just a draft 3 times a year with all the trading that I do. So drafting's the funnest part. It's what I do. So all those players aside, and everybody factored in, you had TJ, you had Russ, you had Josh, you had Grubby, myself, obviously. You had James, you had Dan. All these trades that went through this week involving basically half the league, really. I mean, who wasn't involved in a trade this week? The Gooch, Doofy, and Darb. I think it was just those 3 people not involved in a trade this week. It's insane. But the one that got the most controversy was the one that really kicked it off, and that was the trade between Russ and Grubb. The trade between Russ and Grubb was essentially Dalvin Cook going from Grubb's team over to Russ's team. In exchange, he gets Ramondre Stevenson and Aaron Rodgers. That's what he gets in return. Now, everybody at first glance immediately feels that Grubby got the raw end of the deal. It's a common theme with Grubby's trades. Grubby, to his credit, and I'm going to give him a little more credit here in a minute, to his credit, he's trying. There's guys in this league, very few, but there are guys in this league who will sit there and do nothing the entire year, have less than 10 waiver moves the entire year. Team sucks, team's good, doesn't make a difference. They're making the same amount of moves. Credit to Grubby for actually putting in an effort by saying, you know what, I'm not locked into one guy. I want my team to be better. Maybe I don't know the best way to do it, but I'm going to put in that effort. I'm going to try to do it. So kudos to you, Grubb. I love you, man. I love you in the league. I love that you're always trying. You're always putting in that effort. So that's really a great thing for everybody involved, in my opinion, whether you like the trade or you don't like the trade. Now, getting to the analytics of that trade, here's a couple things to think about. This is my, basically, reasoning for why I don't think Grubby was really shafted in this trade. Dalvin Cook being the main piece of the trade, all right? So what's everybody's argument on this trade and why it was so lopsided? They feel that Dalvin Cook could have got a return of a lot more than what he wound up getting, which was the Ramondre Stevenson and Aaron Rodgers in the deal. And let's look at it from this side first. Let's first analyze how good Dalvin Cook is or is not, okay? Dalvin Cook was drafted in 2017. All right, so that's 6 seasons counting this season that he's been in the league. Nobody, not one single person, whether it be the regular season or the playoff champion, has had Dalvin Cook drafted on their team when they won that championship, or at least not on their final roster. So not one person has won a championship with Dalvin Cook on their team. Okay? I'm sure there's other great running backs where that same story applies, but let's stick to the guy and the meat of the subject here. Dalvin Cook, not on anybody's winning roster come championship time. Now, Dalvin Cook, looking at the analytics here, was drafted 4 times in the first round since he's been in the league. 4 times in the fantasy first round. He was drafted once in the second round and once in the 4th round, which was his rookie year. So all those early drafting points for Dalvin Cook are just not paying off. There's times where he is often out of the roster for 2 to 3 games, hampered for a game or 2, usually because of a shoulder injury, and he's not reliable in that regard. So he's going to give you some really good games. He's going to win some weeks for you, 100%. But is he going to win a season for you? I'm not so sure. Now, continuing with that theme, does that mean that drafting a running back in the first round doesn't equal success for people? Not the case. I also looked during that same time frame, and this could be going back the entire distance of fantasy football for all I know, but just sticking with apples to apples. Since Dalvin Cook was drafted in 2017, how many times in those 6 seasons did a person that won the championship have a first-round running back on the roster? Every single year. Every single year since Dalvin Cook was drafted, either or both the regular season and playoff champion had a first-round drafted running back on their roster. There was 1 year where each the regular season and the playoff champion both had a first-round running back on their team, but each of the other years, at least the playoff or the regular season champion drafted a star running back in the first round that they ended up winning that championship with. So it is very common that a running back drafted in the first round is going to equal you one or the other championship. So don't stray away from that strategy just because Dalvin Cook has not won anybody a belt just yet. Now, analyzing that trade a little more, let's think about it like this. Stevenson has 60 points on the year. Dalvin Cook has 67. So 7 points per week, or not per week, 7 points total for the year through 5 weeks at this point. It only averages out to less than 2 points a week. So it's like 1.3 points per week or something like that Dalvin Cook is averaging above Stevenson. We know Stevenson's about to get some expanded role in his, and he's been growing every single week, by the way. Look at his numbers. He's been growing every single week. I've got stock in Stevenson, so I know what his numbers look like. They've grown every single week this year. Aaron Rodgers has 67 points on the year. Matt Stafford, 45 points on the year, so both through 5 weeks. So if you factor in that average difference per week, you're looking at a 4.5 point difference per week. And if you say 4.5 points extra for Aaron Rodgers on his roster, minus 1.5 basically for Ramondre Stevenson being on his roster over Cook, you're looking at a net gain of 3 points per week for Grubby. So analyzing from just that standpoint alone, Grubby benefits in this trade 3 points per week. I don't know what Russ got because Russ wound up trading Dalvin Cook immediately away to Josh. So we won't dive into the weeds too far there. I'm mainly worried about how did this improve or not improve Grubby's team. And in this case, the analytics say that Grubby improved by 3 points per week by making this trade. That's something to consider. A lot of times people get hung up on names and production when they have their big weeks, what the peak weeks are. But I like consistency. Give me a guy that's going to average 13 points per week over a guy that's going to have 25, but also have 3 or 4 and then miss 3 games a year. Give me the 13-point-a-week guy. I know he's not going to necessarily win you a game, but he is going to win you games. He's going to keep you in the playoffs. He's going to put you in position to win a championship. So for that reason, I like Stevenson. I don't mind the trade. Now, let's play devil's advocate because this was the main argument, I think, from a lot of you people. It wasn't so much that he traded Dalvin Cook. It's that he could have got more on his return. He could have got a better ROI. That's return on investment. He could have got a better ROI. And here's how he could have got a better ROI. So, with Stafford having only 45 points this year, with Rodgers having 67 points this year, let's look at the free agent quarterbacks that were out there. Don't forget about the free agents. You can win ugly, okay? And some of those guys that were on free agents that had significant points that were right around the range of Aaron Rodgers and more, you had Ryan Tannehill with 62. Again, Aaron Rodgers had 67. So you had Tannehill, excuse me for a moment, let me get Rampage Jackson out the scene. You had 62 points for Ryan Tannehill, so only 5 points less for Rodgers. You have Mariota at 65, okay? So 2 guys just under Rodgers. We won't even factor those 2 guys in. Looking at guys that have the same or more points as Aaron Rodgers, Jacoby Brissett, 67 points. An interesting strategy could have been, you pick up Jacoby Brissett, you pick up Deshaun Watson, who I just picked up this week. You got yourself a starting quarterback that's going to only improve come playoff time once Deshaun Watson's the man. That would have been an interesting strategy. You got Danny Dimes overachieving a tad for those Giants this year, 70 points. So he's got 3 more points than Aaron Rodgers on the year. And the creme de la creme, Carson Wentz. His own coach called him out and called him a piece of shit this past week, which is a really fucking awkward strategy. But Carson Wentz has 96 points this season. That's basically 29 more points than what Aaron Rodgers has on the year. Now, I know you're saying Carson Wentz played on Thursday. He's got more points. No, Carson Wentz only had 2 points on Thursday. That is the downside of Carson Wentz. He's going to get you 30. He's going to get you 5. That's how Carson Wentz operates. I'll take my chances over an underperforming Matt Stafford, who only got him double digits once this year. One time this year, Matt Stafford got double digits through 5 weeks. That's fucking weird. Now, what he could have achieved with that, basically if you get Carson Wentz with 96, which again would be 41 more points than what Matt Stafford was giving him on the year, you add Ramondre, And in that trade, which I'm sure Russ would not have made this a deal breaker, you say, you know what? Give me Aaron Rodgers. I want to have my guy on my team. He's going to be my bye week guy at the very least. He's going to be my backup plan in case Carson Wentz gets injured or has a tough matchup. That's fine. Take Aaron Rodgers. Take Ramondre Stevenson. But I tell Russ, I also want Michael Gallup and or Rashad Bateman. Give me those guys. Grubby's got Duvernay on his team. You keep using Duvernay while Bateman is out. And then once Bateman's back, you use Bateman. Bateman's going to get you 10 points a week at minimum, which is significantly more than his wide receiver combo that has fucked him every single week this year, Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson is finally out of his starting roster, but he is still on his team. He wouldn't even be sniffing my fucking locker room if he was on my team. Dude's done nothing this year. With that said, what does that do for Grubby? If he goes ahead and has him throw in Michael Gallup and or Rashad Bateman, uses Duvernay, picks up Carson Wentz off free agents, has Ramondre Stevenson on his team, that is actually a net profit of 8 to 10 points per week. 8 to 10 points per week is going to win you games. I promise you. I promise you. Unless your team is absolute dog shit, you are going to lose at least 2 to 3 games a year by less than 10 points. At least 2 to 3 games a year. And that is the difference between finishing in the top 3 or getting into the playoffs and having a second life. Don't forget this year in the playoffs, Darb has generously donated his last year winnings. I don't agree with it. I say take your winnings. But Darb generously donated last year's winnings to go to the playoff champ just to help establish that he feels the playoff champ is that much more important. So playoff champ is getting extra funds this year thanks to Darb. You thank Darb if you win this playoff this year, and it's not Darb himself. So keep that in mind. Now, we talked about the trades. Last week's quick rundown for you. In my predictions last week, I went a tremendous 5-1. The only match that I lost last week was I picked Darb to beat Officer Doofy. Darb's team got hammered pretty bad last week. He loses by 30 points. And the key things there, I said Josh Allen was going to ball out for him, and he did. He got 36 points. I thought that was going to be enough on his own to beat Keegan. However, he had Rashad Penny go down, get injured, 5.5 points. Cam Akers, pissed off the coach, not happy with his playing time. Boo-hoo. He don't like getting paid $10 million a year to be a second guy. Who gives a fuck? He gets 3.5 points. You had Darren Waller get injured in the first quarter, I think it was. 0 points for him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his first bad week of this season, 5.5 points. All that amounts to Darb losing by 30 points. I thought Darb was going to win that game. I thought Josh Allen was going to be the key for him, and he'd win pretty easy. Not by 30 or anything, but I thought he would easily win by 15. So that's my one loss last week. I go 5-1. I'll take 5-1. That's pretty damn good. So we only had one close matchup last week. There was only one that was 10 points or less last week, and that was the matchup with Chris and Zombie Jim. I did correctly pick Chris to win that matchup. I still predict James with his depth to win the season. James, his trade this week, that was a little iffy. I don't know why he believes in Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the shits, and that is not being said in a positive manner. Kyle Pitts has just been dog shit this year. He's the Allen Robinson of tight ends. That's maybe not his fault. I don't know, but trade's a little questionable. Brian Robinson for Kyle Pitts, that was the meat of the trade. I think he got much more. I like Alec Pierce as well. So I was prepared in my trades to flip a tight end to James. I was going to try. Let's not get into it. It doesn't make a difference. We'll see how it all works out. Trades, and a lot of times are, in hindsight. So we'll see how it all plays out for us. Now, this week's matchups quickly. We've got, we're already through Thursday night's games, as I just mentioned. Looking quickly at, we'll start with my matchup since it's at the top of my screen. It's going to be an ugly one, to be perfectly honest with you. The projection is right now, post Thursday night, Josh to win 113 to 105 over myself. Josh has Joey B going down to New Orleans. I just saw him walk into the stadium with that fresh LSU jersey, throwback for him. Jamar Chase, obviously, both of those guys returning down to New Orleans. You got Terry McLaurin, already went for him, got him 5.5 points. Terry McLaurin has been a real disappointment this year. Antonio Gibson got him 7.5 points this week, which is actually above what he was projected to get since you had Brian Robinson back, but he's still involved in the passing game. 3 catches, 18 yards, 35 rushing yards. Myself, I had Curtis Samuel give me a real dud this week. Only 2.5 points for Curtis Samuel. With all that being said, all the trades that I made this week, we're going to see how it plays out. I've now got Tom Brady and Mike Evans on my roster going against that terrible Pittsburgh pass defense. I got Deontay Johnson in that same game. Terry and I went back and forth. I'm calling him Terry because he didn't get me exactly what I wanted, but he did still trade with me. We went back and forth. I wanted Lockett from him, but couldn't pull Lockett. Wound up with Deontay Johnson. We'll see how he plays against Tampa Bay's defense today. I'm a little worried about it. Jeff Wilson Jr., James Robinson's in my lineup as we speak right now. That could change. but that's probably going to be who's in my lineup. Tyler Higbee in my new tight end. Travis Etienne in my flex. And New England's defense going at Cleveland. Right now I'm keeping New England's defense. I don't believe in streaming defenses anymore. I think you stick with anytime you have a top 5 or 6 defense, you just roll with them no matter who the matchup is for the most part. Unless you're playing the Chiefs or something like that. Then maybe you think about it. So I'll stick with New England and Cleveland. Flip side of that, he's actually got Cleveland against New England. So we'll see how he holds down there. With all that being said, it's rare that I'm going to project myself to ever lose a matchup, so I'm not going to do it here. I beat Josh by the slimmest of margins somehow or another. I think he falls asleep, and I win by roughly 3 points. There's my projection on that. Now, next matchup we have here. We have the Black Hole, Darb against TJ. 1-4 Darb against 3-2 TJ. TJ has been coming on as of late, come off the schneid. I think he's won 3 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. He had David Montgomery go on Thursday night, give him 8.5 points. Darb didn't have anybody on Thursday, so right now as it stands, TJ is projected to win by, what's the math here, 13 points? 13 points. So 118 to 131 is the projection. Jalen Hurts against Dallas tonight. That is obviously the key matchup. It isn't home, but Dallas has a really tough, underrated defense at this point that not a lot of fantasy guys are talking about. They're really solid. Darb, as always, has Josh Allen. It's going to be another shootout against Kansas City. Looking forward to that game. Obviously, the game of the week. Diggs in the same matchup. Can Garrett Wilson do anything at Green Bay? He's kind of hit a rookie wall early already. Only had a couple good weeks. Will Clyde Edwards-Helaire bounce back? He's going to have to be involved. I think he will be. Mike Boone is going to be his reach for the week. We'll see how that plays out. Melvin Gordon is a little banged up. I think Latavius Murray will play on Monday night as well. He's now active on the roster, I think. On the TJ side of the trade, he does now have Nick Chubb in his roster against New England. He's going to use Dallas Goedert tight end. Tyler Lockett's still on his team, as we mentioned. Mostert, as long as he plays, which he's expected to. He's got Pittman on his roster now. Excuse me, I'm sorry. My allergies get me every single week. But with all that being said, it's hard to ignore a 13-point projected win for TJ. It's hard to ignore that. It is hard to ignore that. But I think Dallas defense holds their own against Philly. I think they don't shut Jalen Hurts down, but I think he only gets 10 to 12 points tonight. We'll see if that holds true or not. I'm going to go with Darb. Darb is due for a win. Okay, he's hurting. He's got Mike Boone on his team right now. Fuck. He's got Chase Claypool in his starting role. I want to pick Darb. I can't. TJ wins this matchup. TJ wins by, I'm going to say 10 points. TJ wins. Next matchup. The Gooch against Dogs. The matchup of the week. We got some more coming on this in a minute. I had a chance to sit down with both guys this week and let them kind of air out their projections, their futures, as you will. That interview is coming at the end of this podcast. Stick around for that. Trust me. The Gooch and Dogs, as it stands right now, Joe is projected to hit 119, Craig at 128. So we have an 9-point projected win for Gooch. He's got Justin Herbert against the Denver defense on Monday night. Same with Austin Eckler. Joe's side of the ball, Lamar Jackson at the Giants, the upstart, ready to roar. The Bengals of last year, New York Giants, dare I say it. So with those matchups, looking at him, he had Darnell Mooney, who actually finally did something decent this year for him, 9.5 points. Craig had Chicago's defense get him 7 points on Thursday night against the Commanders. So looking up and down these lines, Gabe Davis is the X factor. He's the X factor for him many weeks. He does have Eno Benjamin starting for him this week. So what will Michael Carter do? What will Eno Benjamin do? Maybe one outscores the other. That's your determining factor. It's Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is the X factor. That guy can either get you 28 or he can get you 6. So what will Gabe Davis do this week? That is the key factor. They're playing against those Chiefs. We remember that classic matchup. What was it, 2 seasons ago? Or was it last season? Whenever it was, that fucking just brilliant. The best matchup you've ever seen in your entire life. So I'm not going to dwell too much on this. I'll let the guys speak for themselves. I'm going to say, close call here. Close call, guys. Boy, Dobbs is due. Dobbs is due. I think Dobbs is due. After this week, I think you're going to be looking at Dobbs. Joe gets the win. I don't know how, but I think Dobbs is involved. I think he's going to be a key piece for him this week. I think that Gabe Davis is going to be on the low end of that spectrum that he has. Dobbs wins by 6. Next matchup, Demarius Targaryen against Officer Doofy. Change your name, Dan. We love Demarius. It's time to move on, bro. So, looking at the projection here, Doofy projected to win 119 to 105. Justin Fields already went for Dan this week. Gave him 17.5 points. I'll take that any day of the week for him. Aside from that, Doofy has Geno Smith this week. He's got A.J. Brown in the big matchup against Dallas. Don't love it. Dan's side of the ball, he's got CeeDee Lamb going against Philly, that same Philly team. So that's going to be your key right there. Jacoby Myers. Everybody said, "Oh, Jacoby Myers. Wow, you had to add him into your trade." When Dan made a trade a few weeks ago, Jacoby Myers, when he's on the field, very solid contributor. Miles Sanders has had some good games. Pollard had some good games. Evan Ingram had 10 or 11 targets last week. Will that continue? We'll see. They don't have Marvin Jones Jr. this week, so I think it continues. You got Devontae Smith for Philly. Alec Pierce, who we just acquired, who I said I like. I like his target share. On the flip side of that ball, Adam Thielen, Alan Lazard, DJ Dallas. DJ Dallas, that's the difference. There's the hole. When you look, you remember seeing kickers, Waterboy. Kicker, all right, who's my bitch? Who's my bitch? Who am I going to kick this onside to? The shaky guy? DJ Dallas. DJ Dallas is the shaky guy. Dan wins this matchup. Dan gets a big win. Dan wins this matchup by, oh boy, not by a lot, 7. Dan by 7. Next matchup, Russ Bun, Zombie Jim. Zombie Jim projected to win this matchup 139 to 123. Going quickly here because I want to save some time. Cooper Kupp, Hollywood Brown. That matchup, the Hollywood Brown matchup there, by the way, that game got moved to a kind of a mid-time between the afternoon and the late game, so that's going to be fun. We'll have solid football all day long today. Thank you, Fantasy Baseball, or thank you, Baseball, rather, just in general. Kyle Pitts, hate him. Kenneth Walker Jr., Breece Hall, Melvin Gordon Jr., or Melvin Gordon III, excuse me. Will Christian Kirk be involved again? Like I said, Marvin Jones is out of the roster this week, so that's great. That's great for Christian Kirk. He had a couple down games these last 2 weeks after starting very strong. Giving you a quick answer here. James wins this matchup. The projection holds. I say James wins this one by 15 to 20 points. Okay? Final matchup of the week. Cops and Rogers. Mahomes going down. So we have our man Grubby. Our man Grubby, okay? 0-5. The only guy without a win this year so far. Chris, 3-2. The guy who makes no moves. Patrick Mahomes against Buffalo. We've talked about it. Aaron Rodgers. Now in his starting roster. Projected against the Jets to get him 21 points today, 20.5. He's got Duvernay in there finally over Allen Robinson. It looks like he may have Rondell, or he's got Rondell Moore back. Rondell Moore he drafted. It was a guy that I wanted. Just joined his roster last week and performed well, or maybe he joined the week before, but either way, he's just now in the roster performing very well. He's got Darrell Henderson, who is now the starting running back while Cam Akers is crying in his room. Ramondre Stevenson, we talked about. Aaron Jones, the solo mission. We didn't talk about A.J. Dillon, by the way, being part of that trade. Don't put any stock into that. I would have kept A.J. Dillon, by the way. That would not have been a deal breaker for Russ. I'm positive of that. Russ wouldn't have said, no, I don't want Dalvin Cook unless you give me A.J. Dillon. That wouldn't have been part of it. You keep a guy that is potentially going to be a stud if your number one running back goes down. You don't trade that away. If you have Dalvin Cook, you don't trade away Madison. You don't do it. If you have Rashad Penny, you don't trade away Kenneth Walker if you have him. You don't do it. If you have Javonte Williams, you don't trade away Melvin Gordon if you have him. You don't do it. That is the one gripe, the one grubby gripe that I will have is he should not have traded A.J. Dillon. He should have just not used him in his damn roster. That's the one gripe I have. Back to it. Najee Harris, now on Chris's team. Still good for flex. Trust me, I know. He has not been a first-round running back this entire year, and that's going to continue. Saquon Barkley is the fucking man. He's got Zach Ertz on his team, who's Mr. Consistent, gets him 8.5, got me 8.5 points every single week, and then some. That was the floor was 8.5. So Christian McCaffrey, bang, bang, bang. I hope he gets traded because I got the backup running back there. Speaking of backups, everything being said, this is the week. Grubby has finally got a healthy roster. Does he have? Actually, I might have spoke too soon. I don't think Keenan Allen's playing, right? Keenan Allen this week. I don't know what the latest is on Keenan Allen, so I don't think he's got Keenan Allen in yet. But still, he added Rondell Moore. He's got Henderson now, who has boosted his role significantly. Grubb gets his first win of the week. He quiets the critics. Grubby in this matchup by 9 points. Grubby by 9. Bang. All right. We've covered everything we needed to cover. We've talked trades. We've talked TRADEMAGEDDON. We've talked about the good and the bads of Grubby's trade. Don't even need to go into the details of the other. There were too many players involved. We'll see how everything shakes out. The matchup of the week. The matchup of the week. Number 1 versus number 2. Craig versus Joe in a battle for supremacy. Who's going to win it? Who's your pick? This is going to be a hell of a matchup. Before we get to that matchup, I had a chance this week to sit down with both guys and ask them a few questions. I hope you enjoy it. Stick around. Trust me, you do not want to miss how this thing ends when we went off air. Stick around. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time. I don't know if it'll be next week or not, but we will be back. I appreciate you every single week. Have a good time. I love you. See you soon. All right, at this time, we welcome into the FWO Show in a battle of 1 versus 2 coming this week. We have the Dogs, Joe Jipping, battling the Gooch, Craig Snyder coming into the show. I want to thank you guys for coming to join us this week. It's rare that we have a matchup of 1 versus 2 where we have some games under our belt to really see who's who and what's what. So it's going to be a real pleasure to see you guys battle this week. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff Rowe.
Happy to be here.
So, like I was saying, you guys are both 4-1. You're the only two in the league that are 4-1 at this stage. So it's also good to see. It's not like one of you is 4-1 on a technicality. You're in first or second place on a technicality where you have more points than somebody else. You're both the only legitimate 4-1s in the league. Since Craig joined the league, your all-time series is currently tied at 3-3. So this will be the rubber match out of the 6-game series that you've had so far. And of that 6-game series, there's only been one time out of the 6 where it's even been a close matchup, where it was decided by 6 points. All of the others were actually decided on an average of 41 points for the victor. Will this matchup even be close this coming week? What are your thoughts on that? Does it matter to you if it's close? Do you get more joy when you win by 20, 30 points? Or do you like just really being a spoiler and beating somebody down and beating them by a point at the end?
You never really know. It's fantasy football, right? But I think we're going to make this one exciting for everyone. No one's getting blown out this week. We're gonna drag them along for the full ride for the full week.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think when everything's settled and come midnight on Monday, everyone will be on the edge of their seats, seeing who's going to come out on top. But I'm always looking for a reason to stay up, watch football. So this adds a little bit more intrigue.
Coming on top, staying up, that's gay. Mighty progressive of you, Craig. I support it. So if I'm personally making a decision here, I love when the matchup doesn't involve me. I love seeing it be a close matchup. Somebody losing by a fraction of a point, it is remarkable. I love it. I absolutely love it, especially when they talk shit going into that battle and they say, ha, I got you. And then all of a sudden come Monday night, lose by a quarter of a point. It's nothing better. Now, Joe's without Derrick Henry this week. Craig has Herbert and Eckler playing against the Broncos on Monday night, a very tough defense. Say what you will about the offense, but the defense is there. Does Joe have a chance this week, Craig?
I think he absolutely does. With all due respect, I think Joe and myself are among 2 of the best teams in the league, and we don't really make excuses. That's for the bottom feeders. So when the dust settles and everything is said and done, I still think Joe has a good team. The Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews connection is very lethal. So I might be favored by 7 or whatever, but I'm still not content or comfortable. So I'm looking forward to Monday night for sure.
What about you, Joe? No Derrick Henry. You got to get back up?
Anytime you lose a guy like Derrick Henry to a bye week, you're worried about it. You wish you had him there to go full strength. But, that's what drafting's all about. Maybe Grubb can take a note on this if he's listening. But you draft a team with depth so that when you got a guy on bye, you can plug and play. We're good to go. No excuses. Not worried about it. We got guys who've been here. They're buying into the program. They're here for dogs, and they're going to show what they got and why they deserve a roster spot on my team.
Shots fired, Grubby. So another off-topic debate here. You guys are widely considered to have the best hair in the league between the 2 of you. What do you think? Which one of you has the best hair in the league?
I'll hand it over to Joe. He can take the best hair in the league. I'll take the best team in the league.
See, the beauty of it is having both, the best team and the best hair. For me, I'm a little sad that I've never been compared to having hair like Russ's sister, though, because, that goes a long way.
That's exactly why I defaulted to you. So you can have that crown.
Hair champ decided. So another off-topic question, just a fun question to have here. You both have youngins at home. We've talked about the family. We've talked about the kids in the past and everything. They're well known. They're on their way to be future fantasy stars. Braden and Carter, 5 years from now, when they're both in kindergarten, and they both give the infamous stories of my dad's tougher than your dad. My dad caught a bullet in his teeth. Which one of these 2 kids is going to be proven right? Which one's going to have the tougher daddy in 5 years?
The crazy thing is the kids won't know that this guy right here and I will be tag team champions at that point. So we'll be running wild. We won't be clashing against each other. We'll be clashing against all the other dads.
PC answers there, a la Russell Wilson. Speaking of Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, I think that's what it's going to come down to this week. I think we all do. We don't have to be Nostradamus in order to figure this one out. Craig's high-powered offense, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler being the leaders of his team coming down to that Monday night matchup. Joe with no Derrick Henry really makes me feel that Craig certainly has the advantage. Yahoo's got him projected to win by 7 points. We'll see how that shakes out for him. Denver's defense, say what you will about the offense. They get back Justin Simmons possibly this week. That defense is still on point with or without him, even more so with him. So I think that's going to really limit their production this week, but it's going to be hard to fully shut them down. So I'll give the nod to Craig, but we'll see how that all plays out. With all that said, we do definitely look forward to this matchup and all the other matchups this week. And I just want to thank you guys for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you having us, all right?
Thanks, Jeff. Good luck this week.
Oh, hey, Yinzer, you still there?
I'm here.
Hey, I know your brother broke his foot, right? Guess what? I'm responsible for that. I've got people, okay? I have people in Otterbein. I've got people in Columbus Public City. Resources. I've got a stack in Baltimore that can't be touched. And you've got Hayden Hurst, Helmsley. We got rid of him, all right? Mark Andrews is far superior to Mr. Hayden Hurst Helmsley. And also, by the way, Tyreek Hill, far superior to Jalen Waddle. So, enough of this nice guy fun, ha stuff for the cameras. This is how we're really going to do this on Sunday. And when the clock strikes midnight on Monday night and your stack looks like a little short stack of dimes you call a neck, I'm going to drop you right on it.
You're just the fakest person. It's like, I really admire be this fake. It's like when the FWO show comes on, you just change. It's like you're a chameleon, like it's awesome. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how fake you can really be. It's like you're just such a fucking pussy. My God. It's amazing.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Hats off to you.
Hey, I forgot to mention, I have another duo coming for you on Sunday. Miles and Carter, okay? Miles Garrett and Michael fucking Carter. They're going to wreck your shit. All right?
Well, we're just going to take a little trip. We're going to take a trip to the pet cemetery. We're going to go to the pet cemetery because it's spooky season, boss. It's spooky season. Trick or treat.
Spooky Cookie Boy Tober. I'll see you on Sunday.